Heart attacks, they're so common, but most of us don't really get what's happening inside our bodies in those critical moments. So we're going to peel back the curtain, get past the Hollywood myths, and look at the actual science. Because what you're about to learn isn't just interesting, it's absolutely essential. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? This isn't some dry medical lecture. This is literally life-saving knowledge. So let's treat it that way. Okay, so before we dive into what goes wrong, we've got to appreciate what's going right. Every single day, 100,000. That's about how many times a healthy heart beats, day in and day out. I mean, think about it. It's this relentless, powerful pump just working away in the background to keep us going. But what happens when its own fuel line starts to get clogged? So here's the thing. The story of a heart attack doesn't start with someone clutching their chest and falling over. Not at all. It starts way, way earlier, often decades earlier, with a process that's completely silent. Basically, the villain of our story is this condition called atherosclerosis. And it's a slow-motion kind of villain. Just imagine all this gunk, cholesterol, fats, calcium, you name it, gradually sticking to the inside walls of the arteries that feed your heart. Over time, it just builds and builds and builds. Okay, so you've got this slow buildup happening for years. But how does that turn into a sudden life-or-death emergency? Well, let me break it down with a simple idea. Just picture the pipes in your house. Over the years, crud builds up inside, right? The opening gets smaller, the water flow slows down, and the pipe gets hard and brittle. It's the exact same thing happening inside your arteries. The pathway for your blood just gets narrower and narrower. And for a long, long time, that narrowed artery might not cause any trouble at all. You wouldn't even know it's there. But then, bam, something snaps, and that silent problem becomes a full-blown immediate crisis. And here's why. That claque isn't just a hard lump of stuff. It's more like a little volcano with a thin, fragile cap over a gooey, fatty core. And if that cap breaks, well, that's when everything goes sideways. When that cap ruptures, it sets off this crazy chain reaction. First, the wall of the plaque cracks open. Second, your body goes into full-on panic mode. It thinks you have a wound that needs sealing. So third, it sends in the emergency crew to form a blood clot. The problem is, and this is the deadly part, number 4, that clot gets too big. It completely plugs the artery, and just like that, blood flow is cut off. All right, so the artery is blocked. Now we're going inside the body to see what happens in those first critical moments. The clock is officially ticking. And this timeline, wow, this is everything. In just the first few seconds, the heart muscle, starved of oxygen, flips to this shoddy emergency power source. Within a couple of minutes, just minutes, heart cells actually start to die. And after about 30 minutes, that damage is permanent. It's not coming back. This is exactly why you hear doctors say time is muscle. Every single second counts. Okay, so as the heart muscle is dying, your body starts screaming for help. It's sending out alarm signals. We all know the classic one, right? That crushing chest pressure, like an elephant is sitting on you. But it's not always like that. The pain can show up in your arm, your neck, even your jaw. You might get short of breath, break out in a cold sweat, and that sense of doom, that's a real thing. It's your body's primal instinct telling you something is terribly, terribly wrong. Okay, this is super important because people mix these up all the time. Think of it this way. A heart attack is a plumbing problem. A pipe is clogged. Cardiac arrest, on the other hand, is an electrical problem. The heart's wiring goes haywire and it just stops beating. Now, the plumbing problem, the heart attack, can absolutely cause the electrical problem, and that's often what makes it so fatal. Okay, we get what's happening inside the body. So what do we do when we see those alarms going off in the real world? This is where that knowledge we talked about turns into life-saving action. Right, these 5 steps are absolutely critical. First, and I cannot say this enough, call for help immediately. Don't wait, don't second guess. Every second you wait, more heart muscle is dying. While you're waiting for help, have the person sit up. It takes some of the strain off the heart. If you have aspirin, give them one to chew. It can help thin the blood. Try to keep them as calm as possible. And you got to be prepared. Watch their breathing. Be ready for CPR if needed. So once the professionals take over, they've got some amazing tools. They can use powerful drugs to literally bust up the clot, or they can do something called an angioplasty, where they thread a tiny balloon into the artery, inflate it to open things up, and usually leave behind a little mesh tube called a stent to prop it open. For really bad blockages, they might even do bypass surgery, which is basically creating a new detour for the blood to flow around the traffic jam. Look, all that hospital stuff is the emergency fix, right? It's damage control. But the real win is making sure this never, ever happens in the first place. And this next part, this is where you get to be the hero of your own story. You know, a heart attack almost never just happens out of the blue. It's the final act of a very long play. And the main characters are these risk factors: smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, stress. These are the things that are fueling that silent plaque buildup we started with. All right, let's do a quick fire round: myths versus facts. Myth: it's just an old person's disease. Fact: nope, with our lifestyles, it can happen at any age. Myth: it's always a sudden, dramatic event. Fact: not always. Warning signs can show up for days or even weeks. Myth: it's always chest pain. Fact: pain in your jaw, back, or even your stomach can be a sign. And this one is huge. Myth: if the symptoms go away, you're fine. No way! The pain can come and go. That doesn't mean the attack has stopped. So what's your personal prevention toolkit? It's really straightforward, but you have to do it. Move your body for 30-40 minutes a day. Eat a diet that's not loaded with sugar and junk food. Find ways to manage your stress. And for goodness sake, if you smoke, you have to stop. And get those regular checkups. You need to know your numbers, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, before they become a huge problem. Okay, I want to leave you with what might be the single most important piece of information in this entire explainer. We all have this image of the Hollywood heart attack, right? Sudden, dramatic, out of nowhere. But what if I told you your body might be whispering warnings for days or even weeks beforehand? And that's the trick. These warnings are so subtle. Things like being way more tired than usual, not sleeping well, feeling some indigestion, maybe a little anxiety. These are all things we'd probably just brush off, right? But these can be your heart's earliest, quietest pleas for help. We just have to learn to listen. And really, that's what it all comes down to. Understanding this whole process, from that silent buildup to those subtle warning signs, and knowing what to do in an emergency, that's power. It takes the fear of the unknown and replaces it with a clear plan of action. And in the end, this isn't just about you. It's about the people you love. The knowledge you have now could help you spot the signs in a parent, a partner, a friend. So think about that. The life you save, it could very well be someone you love.